Okay, you know what these are? These are empty rolls of tape, and we're going to make some bracelets out of them. And for the first one, we're going to use the Iron Orchid clear stamps. And with this tape, you don't have to prime it or anything. The wood icing will stick right to it, as you can see. So the first thing I do, of course, is spread the paste on all the way around. And then I make sure, try to get it as smooth as you can. It's a little hard when you're working with a small item like this, but you can usually get it pretty smooth. And then the next thing I do is I take the water bottle and I spray the stamp with a little bit of water. Anytime you're going to stamp into this texture of paste, you need to spray a little water on it. That'll keep the product from lifting off with your stamp when you remove it. Okay, so I just start pressing the stamp in, and I kind of walk myself around the bracelet one little section at a time, pressing the stamp in. I was surprised that this stamp fit this tape roll perfectly, so I didn't have to do any jockeying around as far as getting it to fit. And so I was pretty happy with this. As you can see, I got a pretty good impression. You're not going to get perfect, but that's okay. It'll look good when you get done. So after the first layer dries, then you come back and you do the edges and the inside of the bracelet by spreading some wood icing on as smooth as you can get it. And then while that's drying, I'm going to show you, you just set that aside and let that dry probably about either overnight or at least an hour or so. And then while that's drying, I'm going to show you how to do a stencil. And you can see that I already had a smooth application of the paste, and I let that dry. Now we're going to do a raised relief using this Melanie Royals furniture stencil, which fits perfectly on this size tape. And you can see here that we have to tape the stencil down or it just keeps flipping away from you, and it helps hold it in place. So I just use a little bit of tape on each side of it. Once you get your stencil in place, then you start spreading the paste all the way around the tape roll or the bracelet, whichever you want to call it. Then once you have the paste the way you like it, then you just lift your stencil right off. And then just go around and clean off the edges. Anything that's hanging over the edge, you want to cut that off with your knife and then set that aside to dry. Once they're good and dry, you can start sanding them and smoothing over the surface. And then if you happen to have any spots that need to be corrected a little bit, you can use an X-Acto knife to kind of carve into it and make it look like it should. At this point, it's pretty easy to carve into it, but if you wait a few weeks, it might be a little harder to do that because this product gets harder as time goes by. And then once you've sanded and dusted, you can start staining. We're using a mixture of our envy green and a little bit of tree bark for kind of a brownish green color. And the way we like to do it is to put on a nice generous amount and then wipe back. After the glaze is dried for about 10 minutes, then you can go back with sandpaper and just hit the high spots. This is the technique I use for doing a two-color technique, and it's a pretty fast method. However, there's lots of ways to do this, but this is just one of the techniques that I like to use because it's quick and easy. So I'm using the Dijon mustard. I'm going back over the green and the white, and then I'm going to wipe the Dijon off, and then it reveals a two-colored design. And then I top coat with our polyacrylic gloss. So here's our finished product, which I think turned out pretty nice. I'd wear these just about anywhere, and there's lots of different designs you can use. So now you know what you can do with those recycled tape rolls. Make yourself some bracelets, make some gifts. They're a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed this class.